Hi moms, today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about SI joint pain. So SI joint pain can happen in someone who is not pregnant, but it is very common in pregnant women. Before I show you some things to hopefully give you some relief to that SI joint pain that you might be experiencing right now, I'm going to explain to you why it's happening and what it is that is happening. Because I find that if I personally understand what's going on with my body, there's a better chance of me performing exercises and stretches and different things to get relief properly. Whereas if I don't understand my body, then I'm not going to do those things properly. So I'm going to try to break it down for you so that it's easy to understand. So if you imagine the skeleton of a pelvis, okay, you've got your hips, the femurs come in those hip bones, that hip socket. We've got your sacrum, we've got your spine, we've got your tailbone, and we've got your pelvic floor muscles. All these beautiful things. So you have two SI joints. They are the joints on the right and left that attach your pelvis to your sacrum, okay? What happens during pregnancy is we have this beautiful thing called ligament laxity. And what is that? Well, we have this increase in hormones, particularly a hormone called relaxin, that's doing a beautiful thing. It's preparing your body to push a baby through. Whether you're going to end in a C-section or a vaginal birth, this is going to happen to your body. And so what happens is this SI joint they can become misaligned, okay? On top of the misalignment are muscles, our glute muscles from behind, our core muscles from on top, the inner thigh muscles that meet up into that pelvic floor can weaken. So we're hanging on our joints, which are misaligned and not real stable. And so then what happens? Pain occurs. Okay. In addition, if our glute muscles aren't real strong, one of the pelvic floor muscles called the piriformis is going to kick in and take over. It's going to do the job of the glute muscles. So then what happens is the piriformis becomes real tight and real aggravated, almost feeling like you need a massage. In the same way that if our neck tightens and compensates for something the back should be doing, well, then it hurts, okay? This is the same exact thing that's going on. So you might be complaining of SI joint pain and not realize that you also have some tightness in the pelvic floor, okay? So it's just a host of problems that can make it seem a little overwhelming and tricky to treat. But once we figure it out, it's not too hard to treat. There's something you can do about it. So first, before we get into exercises to strengthen the glutes, the core, and the adductors to help take the pressure off those SI joints, I'm going to first show you how you can release the pelvic floor, which is really interesting. Just like the same way you would go get a massage to the neck. We're going to find any trigger point, but you can do it on your own, just seated down. And then I'm going to show you how to stretch the pelvic floor. So the same way that you go get a massage at the neck, the massage therapist is again going to say, you now need to stretch your neck. And then on top of that, we need to strengthen the muscles that need to be strengthened so the neck doesn't tighten up again. Okay, so first things first, you are going to need, before I do that, before you need a ball or a tennis ball, I'm going to show you something else. First thing is throughout your day, maybe 3 times a day, like maybe after you drink your coffee, after you eat your lunch, after you have your dinner, I want you to do what's called a posture check-in. So one thing that that's causing us to hang out on the SI joint is our poor posture. So notice how you're standing right now. Are you standing like this, all on the right leg and the left leg is just hanging out? Well, I guarantee you're probably going to have SI joint pain on the right side. So first thing, I want you to just ensure that you're standing in a neutral position, evenly distributed on those hips and legs. Then I want you to notice, are you more hanging out in your toes, which is then causing you to hang out on the SI joint? Or are you evenly distributed from toes to the middle of your heels? Okay, if you are, great job. That's where I want you, okay? So I don't want you hanging out on one leg, and I don't want you hanging out on your toes, hanging out on the joint. Anytime we're hanging out somewhere, we end up hanging on that joint, okay? So a lot of our problem comes from the ground up. Then I want you to check your knees. Are you locked out or do you have soft knees? Then check the position of your pelvis. The further you are along in your pregnancy, the harder work it's going to take, but it's worth the hard work because then you won't be in pain. Are you in this great tilt and your paraspinal muscles are kicked in and so tight? Okay, if you are, I want you to pull back slightly and shut off these back muscles so they're nice and squishy and they're not angry, okay? I also want to make sure you're not opposite and gripping your glutes, creating mom butt, okay? We want you right in between. Then I want you to do some good work to find connection from the rib cage to the hips. Make sure, naturally during pregnancy, you might have a little bit of rib flare, but you can fight against it with just a little bit of awareness. Then, as always, check the shoulders and the head and neck. Are you rounding out or are you gently open? Are you forward head posture or are you gently tucked back? Okay, I'm not telling you military style, gentle, okay? That posture check-in a few times a day is going to help you tremendously. I want it to become second nature. Now, something you can do to strengthen those feet to help support the joints. Just take a loop band, step wide and roll out to in, out to in. You're welcome to roll front to back as well. You can use a chair, stroller, or wall for support or a counter. Okay, creating strong feet is going to help you to support proper posture. Okay, so let's get into opening up the pelvic floor. You're going to want a squishy ball to start. And then you might be able to progress to something like a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball, but start nice and squishy. So I want you to find these sits bones, okay? And be sure that you're sitting up on those bones. You might have to physically and manually move some tissue. You're then going to take the ball into that sits bone and roll it to the tailbone and back. To the tailbone and back. If you find a trigger point, you might need to hang out there and just take a few deep breaths and then begin rolling again, okay? Then take a break and you're gonna roll the ball to the opposite side. And if you don't have one of these balls, you can find like a squishy ball at the dollar store. You don't need anything fancy or expensive. Once you have built up a little bit, you might then be able to progress to something like a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball to get a little bit deeper of a relief, okay? So again, we've massaged that pelvic floor area, loosened it up. You might feel some relief now. Then secondly, there are two types of full body squats you can do to help stretch the pelvic floor. So I like to use a wall or a chair. But I especially love the wall to help you support yourself. I want you to turn off the front of the foot as best as possible and then open up those sits bones and hang down. This is going to help release the pelvic floor, release and open up the SI joint area as well. You can hang out here for 1 to 2 minutes. So this is on the wall. You can also do the same thing on the chair. Or maybe you have like a heavy set of 15 to 20 pound dumbbells that are on the ground and you can hold on to support yourself as well. But here, knees in between the arms, sit back, tuck the chin, and breathe, okay? That brings me to a second point. In addition to your posture, you're also going to check in with your breathing. Deep breathing is going to help strengthen the core, just breathing. It's also going to help open up the pelvic floor and ensure that your pelvic floor is open, not weak, but just getting some openness, and that it also is strengthening. We want that pelvic floor to release and contract. Release and contract. We don't want the piriformis always contracted. Okay, so this is how you're going to check in with your breathing. I call it a 360 breathing pattern. So you're going to take your hands here and 360. I want you to feel movement and air into those lungs all the way from the front of the rib cage to the back, okay? 360 breathing. Just by getting this expansion here in the rib cage is going to send the diaphragm down and relax the pelvic floor. So watch my rib cage here. Okay, so about 3 times a day, again, check in with your posture, check in with your breathing. And then when you are in that stretch on the wall, full squat or on a chair or with some dumbbells, you're really focusing on that 360 breathing, opening up and expanding that back, opening up the pelvic floor, and then contracting the pelvic floor. Okay, so now that we've got things opened up, stretched out, we've got our posture checked and our breath checked, now I'm gonna give you a few exercises to do. Let's begin with strengthening the adductors. So I want you to take a ball or a yoga block. If you don't have either of these, you can roll up a towel. A little towel roll will do. But I want you to come against a wall. Have the feet wider than hip. We're not going to go super deep. I want you to ensure that the TFLs, these hips and these quads, are soft and squishy. I only want the inner thighs doing the work and your core with your breathing. So back is against the wall, nice good posture. Blocker ball between the inner thighs and between the knees. So you're not going to press the knees together, you're going to pull the inner thighs together. Quads are squishy, hips are squishy. I want you here 30 seconds to a minute, 3 to 4 times, okay? Again, knees are not pulling together, inner thighs are doing the work. Next up, again, you can grab a ball or a yoga block. I want you to grab a foam roller and find a wall space. What we're going to do is we are going to target those inner thighs again, and then we're going to pull the femur back into the hip and open up. You're using the iliacus muscle to open up the SI joint. So I want your feet flat against the wall, something between the ankles just to better stack the hips. You're welcome to grab a towel roll or something to rest your head on, and that shoulder is going to come underneath. Ball between the knees for me. Lengthen through the back. I don't want you tucked or tilted. Neutral, find length. Feet flat against the wall for me here. Okay? What you're going to do, you also should be able to slide your hand underneath these obliques. So lift up. I don't want you sagging into the mat. Okay, TFL turned off. Squishy, squishy. Inner thighs are going to pull together. Use the iliacus to pull back. So I don't want you to hike the hip and forward. So inner thighs together, pull back. Not hiking the hip. Nice deep breathing. So after you have had a few rounds here, moms, you are then going to roll to your opposite side, okay? And that should feel great in that SI joint. Next, I'd like you to simply roll over, hang on to that blocker ball, place the feet on the wall. We're going to get again into those adductors. I want your feet a little bit wider than the hips, ball or block between the inner thighs. Hands on the rib cage here. Inhale, 360 expansion. expansion. Exhale, rib cage down and inner thighs together. Again, quads are shut off. I want those adductors doing the work. Okay, I want you to remain on your side, but trade out the ball for that band for me. Slide the band above the knees. Again, you are going to rest on your shoulder and you can rest your head and neck. Here we are going to get into the glutes. I often see the clamshell exercise basically murdered, okay? It's not done correctly. You might be talking to someone and the right muscle is not even working. It's intended to be a glute exercise. So I want you to ensure that your legs form a 90-degree angle. You're going to shut off the quad in TFL, and I want your glutes to be shut off when the knees are closed, and then use that glute medius to open up the top leg. So rest in a nice comfortable position for me. Okay, bring those knees forward. So we've got a 90-degree angle, lengthen through the low back. Shut off these glutes. They should not be gripped. Squishy quads, squishy hips. Inhale, 360. Exhale, glute lift. All the way till you feel this glute really contract and lower back down. And down. Sorry, pause. Okay, so again, clamshell on one side, then you'll roll over to the opposite side. That is a great, great, great glute exercise. Then let's work into the core here. So last movement I'm going to give you here is we want these obliques to turn on, and we need these transverse abdominals to turn on to help stabilize the pelvis. So you're going to come to one side, align that elbow. I like to align it with the shoulder, okay? Go ahead and stack the knees out to the side. You're going to inhale, exhale, lift up. Try to position that head in a nice neutral position. If you want, you can take your top hand and place it on this lower rib and make sure this area is tightening. So inhale, gently relax. Exhale, lift and contract. Okay, again, you'll do that left side and then roll to the opposite side. If you feel strong enough to extend those feet, you're welcome to come out of this bent knee position and take it up a notch. But I want you to start there. Release the pelvic floor, stretch the pelvic floor, posture and breath check-ins throughout your day. And then get in those good adductor exercises, the glute clam, and then as well as that good oblique core exercise. I want you to start there, and once you've really given a week or two to master these things, then circle back and we'll get you some more exercises just to change it up a little bit. And just as we end here, two things I want you to check in on. If you're doing single leg exercises, there's a good chance that that might make your SI joint flare. So I want you to avoid those single leg exercises just for now and focus on 2 feet on the ground. And also when you're sleeping, sleep on the side that is not bothering you. So if your right SI joint pain is bothering you, go ahead and sleep on that left side and see if that helps also to give you some good relief. But let me know and check in with me and let me know how you're doing. Hope you get some relief.